Joining me now, we have Tara Setmeyer, former GOP communications director, now co-founder and CEO of the Seneca Project, along with Julian Castro, MSNBC political analyst and former secretary of Housing and Urban Development. It's good to see both of you. So, Tara, The Guardian reported Google searches for immigration operations now turn up ICE press releases on raids from years ago, which have had their timestamps updated recently. So give me a sense of why it's so important that they make people think the number of arrests and deportations are higher than they actually are.
Alex, this is extraordinary. This is really Orwellian 1984 level propaganda and manipulation of information. Donald Trump has made his entire political career about going after immigrants and people of color, and from the first time he descended down that golden escalator in 2015, and actually even before that with the birther conspiracy nonsense with Barack Obama, he's recognized that leaning into this fear of the other, and exploiting and demagoguing the immigration issue, which is one that needs to be brought under control. We have an immigration and border security issue in this country. We've had it for 30 years. But they are trying to manipulate the perception here because he's run on this, and people are like, yes, we have to get tough on the border. That's right. Go and deport the criminals first. Not realizing that, A, what he was claiming for mass deportations was logistically impractical. B, he enjoys the cruelty. He gets off on the cruelty being the point of all of this. And we remember that former Trump officials who came out from his first administration talked about the god-awful illegal things that he wanted to do. Can't we just shoot him in the leg? Why can't we put a moat with gate, alligators, like obnoxious things and illegal things, terrible things to try to keep these people out? This is not the American system of justice. This is not how things work. And by manipulating the numbers to make it seem like he's doing more shows you that it's more about the cruelty and this idea that he's some tough guy taking control than what's actually real. Back in 2019, the last time they tried this and they tried family separations, the American people revolted. Over 65% of the American people disapproves of the family separation policy. And the fact that Trump is trying to go back to that just so that they can show again the toughness and cruelty of this should alarm Americans, because this is not the way we treat human beings. We can go after border security. We need to fix it. There's problems there, but this is not the way to do it. And to manipulate information and make this seem as though it's something it's not is dishonest. And that defines who Donald Trump and MAGA really are.
Secretary Castro, we are seeing the impacts of the Trump administration removing protections for sensitive locations. Parents in Chicago, they're picking their kids up early or even parking a few blocks away. In some cases, they're not even sending their kids to school. So what are the domino effects if immigrant communities aren't trusting institutions like schools or even hospitals?
Yeah, I mean, first, we should start off by saying that in 1982, the Supreme Court in a case named Plyler versus Doe said that the children of undocumented immigrants have a right to actually go to public school, to get a public education, right? So they can be there. The other thing is, what in the world are ICE agents going to find in a school or a church in these protected zones? I mean, what 5-year-old do they think is going to be committing some sort of crime if that's what they're looking for? It's ridiculous. But what it does is that it tears apart at the social fabric, not only of immigrant families, but of entire neighborhoods. People don't feel like they can report crimes to the police. Churches, hospitals that provide basic services or provide religious education or sustenance, those start to fall apart. That's why the Biden administration protected these places in the first place. And you keep doing this, it's going to have an impact not only on those immigrant families, but really on whole neighborhoods and entire communities, because these are bedrock institutions for everybody: elementary schools, churches, hospitals. It's terrible what the Trump administration is doing here.
So, Tara, the Trump administration wants Guantanamo Bay to be able to hold up to 30,000 migrants. When that many people are being detained somewhere so remote and mostly inaccessible, how do you maintain oversight?
I think the idea and question of oversight is one that we should be asking more broadly with everything that's going on. Donald Trump, one of the first acts in office the first week was to get rid of inspectors general, was to decapitate the leadership in DOJ and the FBI. We're now locking the doors to our cabinet agencies because Elon Musk's minions are running around taking over our government and literally locking out members of Congress whose responsibility it is to have oversight over these agencies. Donald Trump has put his loyalists and people who are pledged fealty to him more so than our Constitution in places like the Department of Justice and elsewhere. Oversight's a problem. It's a major problem. That's why we have separation of government. That's why we have separation of powers. That's why the Congress is supposed to be able to have oversight over these things. Who is going to do this? It's important that we continue to shine a light on it. Guantanamo Bay was a pain point for past administrations because of some of the legally dubious and constitutionally questionable actions going on there. We're going back now to that. And so this is a problem. And not only that, it costs multiple times more money to house people there than it would be on U.S. soil. So what is that about, too? So
add to that, Secretary, is using Guantanamo Bay as a mass detention center for migrants, is that a realistic plan logistically, in addition to the humanitarian concerns? By the way, a former State Department official called it, frankly, insane.
Yeah, and here's the through line, Alex, is just like Trump put out this number of we're going to do mass deportations and get millions of people, and they're finding that that's actually not feasible. That's not practical either with the funding or with the personnel in the federal government right now. That's also not practical or feasible at Guantanamo, that, as I understand, can only house a few hundred people right now. And so they're going to have to try and do these makeshift facilities. But even that is not going to be enough if 30,000 people is the number that you're trying to get there. It makes no sense. It's wasting taxpayer dollars. It's going to turn out to be cruel for the people who are there, and also going to, I think, wrap in people that are not criminals. And so all around, it's incompetence, it's cruelty, it's waste of dollars, it's everything that voters should be upset about. And I think they are going to be upset about this as the truth about Guantanamo and the entire mass deportation effort comes more to light in the months ahead.
Okay, Secretary Castro, Tara.